Just walking along the banks here up at the Juck. Very unfortunately, we've found, so far we've counted a dozen Murray cod between sort of 65 up to about a metre, dead, floating in different levels of decomposition. Actually, I've just found another one right up here. This is a smaller one again. Look at this. This one's obviously been here dead for quite some time. That's probably one of the smaller ones that I've found. Like I said, the biggest one was probably a bit over a metre. There's a whole bunch of them there. This one here and a couple that I found just down there have been dead for, I don't know, over a month or more. The other ones that we found back down the river a little bit, probably only been dead for, you know, at most a week. They haven't started to fall apart yet. They're all, you know, they haven't really started to smell too much. They're white, their eyes are white and all that sort of thing, but they don't look like they've been there for all that long. So I don't know whether it's an ongoing thing with these guys sitting on nests and just being too stubborn to get off them. I'll show you the footage now of what we first rolled on when we first come up here. Pretty gutted. It's not good to see, and like Dad says in this clip, it's not just these guys that are dead, it's the nests that they were guarding as well, that you know, obviously been abandoned. And that's just the ones that we found so far. It's yeah, pretty awful. Check it out. You can see how much the water's pulling back. Look at how far that bloody wet line is up the mud there.
Yeah. Like the summertime, you pull back even more. Probably more rain's talking.
Yeah, they had a really big push of water they sent downstream, but they've backed it off a little bit, but she's still running pretty hard. River's high. A lot coming out of Blowering. There's a lot of dead fish right here.
Oh, shit. What the hell is going on there? Dead water. No oxygen.
That's what they are.
Good.
1, 2, 3, 4 there. Not good, whatever it is.
Nothing's going on.
It could be male fish that are on a nest here. Right, and what happens is they stay on the nest until they bloody get some sort of rollover event in the water that knocks the oxygen out of it, but they're just that stubborn, they stay on the nest until they die.
Oh shit.
Another one down there. Yep, and down further. They're all dead about the same age. That's what they'd be, they're all males. It happened once up at Blowering. We're at 90 odd centimetres. That one there would be about just short of 80. I wonder if it is the old stubborn males that are just too stubborn to get off the nest. This one's bigger, this one's a metre. That's a big fish, that one. Yeah, a bit over a metre, that one. But they've all floated, they're all about the same. Like, they died at the same time, you know what I mean? And just recent. Another one here. So I wonder if you can see that wet watermark there. The water's obviously dropping quite a bit. Whether these are the males that are nesting, sitting on a nest. Water drops, or there's some sort of rollover in the water, it's deoxygenated, and they're just too stubborn to leave. And they just get knocked up. We had a storm about... When did we get that storm that come through? What day was that? No, it was a few days ago now. We got that inch. We got that inch of rain about 4 days ago. Yeah. Might even be a bit more, yeah? Yeah. Before the weather turned really cold, wasn't it? Yeah. So that's 6 days ago. Must have been the Monday. I'll have to have a look, just double check.
Yeah, I think it was right back there.
Well, if it's in relation to, you know, organic material running off the bank with that storm that come through, but there's no, usually that happens when there's like a backwater. So when they get it on the rivers, like, yeah, you know, there'll be a big floodplain, like a big forest, yeah, where there's all decomposing matter up on the bank, that the river comes up and washes it all into the river, and you get a blackwater event that way. But that's not going to be happening here. We might just poke along a bit and see how many more we can find. Yeah, I don't know if this one's, yeah, one over here as well maybe. I know it looks like there's another one washed up against the rocky bank down there. Pretty crappy stuff to see this. Not nice at all. Yeah, it's another small one there. Maybe 60 odd, that one. Probably the smallest we've seen so far.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of good fish going to waste.
Yeah.
So they were nesting, that means all those bloody eggs are dead too.
Exactly right. Yep. That's the battle with irrigation, I suppose.
Poisons.
Well, it's an no, not poisons. It's with the irrigation, because it's an irrigation lake. It's what it was designed for. So, you know, summertime or springtime comes around, they call for irrigation water downstream at exactly the same time that these guys want to be nesting. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, no, this is when they usually spawn, early November.
You know, put a post up about it? Yeah, I will.
That really sucks to see that. Like you say, it's not only that dead fish, but any nest that he's going to be protecting. A million eggs gone. Oh, lambs don't look too happy either. G'day, how are you?
There's another 6 up there.
You ever seen it before?
Yep, all the time, just off the year.
Yeah, rightio.
They say it's the males
Yeah,
come up and the females are here to spawn and everything.
yep.
Anyway, the big males start fighting.
Yeah, okay.
All they got to have is a nick.
Yep.
They get a fungus on it and they die.
Yeah, rightio.
It's, last week, that one's been dead for over a week.
Yep.
Up here further, where that rock is up
Yep.
there, another 2 up on the bank there, and up further there's more.
Yeah, righto. Yeah, I'll go up and have a bit of a look.
There's another one floating here in the river this morning when I come down and start the pump.
Yeah, it's one just against the rock. Another one there. There's another 6 or 8 on the bend down there as well.
Yeah, well, they're right up.
Yeah, righto.
In the running water.
Yeah, okay.
3 dead up there.
Yeah, righto.
But yeah, I've got a phone at home. It was 12.
Yep.
Photos of that 10 years ago.
Yeah, rightio.
I looked into it then. Fishermen.
Yeah, yep.
They come up.
Okay.
It's such a shame, but
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame, but yeah, I don't know.
they're big fish.
Yeah, it just seems a bit odd that they would roll over like that from an infection when they fight in every waterway, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it only happens this time of year.
Okay. Well, they're only just spawning now, yeah. Hmm.
There was one dead.
Yeah, there's a couple up here that have been dead for probably over a month or more, sort of thing. Well, that's what I thought it might have been, because those males get pretty stubborn when it comes to sitting on a nest too. Well, they'll basically sit until they die, just trying to protect the nest. They had it at Blowering one time, and they worked out that what happened is they had a big cold snap, and the layers of the water rolled over, and the water from down deeper didn't have enough oxygen for the males to survive in. But because they're that determined to protect the nest, it rolled them. Dozens of them. So, you know, that's what I thought possibly might have happened here. But
Well, see, it's only a few weeks ago.
yeah,
Black was underwater.
yeah, it dropped an awful lot of water out there.
They just let it go.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bloody shame.
It is a shame. It is a hell of a shame because they're a pretty big fish.
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty important too that they're, you know, in here trying to spawn. And I can't think.
I believe you me, but there's 2 just up here,
Yeah,
and up further there's some more on the one. It all seems to be on that bank.
yeah, okay. Probably where the wind's blowing them across to.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed seasons when it doesn't happen?
Probably last year it didn't happen.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, what about through those sort of wet?
but when I say last year, see, we had full dam.
Yeah, that's right.
We had full dam, so it didn't find. You only ever find it when it's in like this.
Yeah, yep.
That's everything.
And it's usually when it's lower is when there's more demand for irrigation while they're letting the plug out, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Look, I don't understand why they're letting the plug out at the moment.
Well, they reckon that it's that dry down there. They're calling for the irrigation water. See? Yeah, that's where it all goes. It all goes out.
That's where it goes, but I normally
Yeah,
they've got it until the end of November,
yeah, exactly. Yep,
and then they pull the plug.
yep,
And we've got the flats for the summer,
yep.
we get no notification to say we're pulling the plug.
No, that's right. No.
Or we don't get any notification to say that they're just going to close the gate.
Yeah, yeah.
I've had sheep bogged down here because
Yeah.
they've let it go.
Yeah, I bet. Yep.
But anyway, all right, mate.
Oh, no, very good. Thank you.
Release to give him another idea.
Yeah. So that is another very interesting theory from a local farmer here who has seen this happen season after season, but did note that last year it didn't happen, and generally when the lake's full they haven't noticed this happening. Whether that is because during those years when it is full there's less irrigation, so the dam's dropping a lot less. But apparently that was, looked into quite a few years ago, and they said it's from the fish bluing. Obviously they bite each other and things like that. They get a nick in their flank, and an infection gets in and kills them that way. So, it's a possibility, but you'd have to imagine that there's some pretty nasty stuff in the water for them not to be able to survive that. Spawning goes on everywhere, every single year. I don't know. I don't know whether it could be in conjunction with the fact that we did have that storm, bit of runoff, bit of muck in the water from there. It could be another option, but yeah, really interesting to hear from someone who lives on these banks of the dam here about what they've seen in the past, and obviously the lack of communication between irrigation control and local farmers would be pretty frustrating for them as well. So we might just poke up and have a look at these other fish. And yeah, check that out as well. But it's a bloody sad sight, that's for sure. Yeah, there is two more. One up high there, another one halfway down the bank. So it's quite a long period of time. There's another one actually back there, sitting up on the bank as well. It's not just happened with one event. And if it was an infection thing, surely there'd be an ulcer or something on them. So that big one there, I should be able to pull that up and find where it got bit.
Yeah.
You can't have an infection that kills something that doesn't, if it's started on the outside, surely there's got to be evidence of it on the outside. I'll check these ones here, because these ones are the fresher ones.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Well, you don't know, do you? You don't know how determined the buggers are to try and stay on a nest, but surely they're not going to stay there until their backs come out of the water. Yeah, that's absolutely, well, it's heart-wrenching. It's really, it's, if it's a natural occurrence, which I guess chances are it's probably not. Chances are it's probably something that humans are doing, that have cause this. If it is just something that happens naturally, well, I guess shit happens. But I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you think it could be, if you've seen this before, if you are someone who has any sort of scientific background who can shed some light on it for me, and also the other viewers out there, that would be fantastic. But yeah, it's a real shame to see such great big fish dead up here rotting on the bank in pretty big numbers. That was some pretty devastating, pretty heartbreaking stuff to see those fish dead out there at Burrinjuck. And I just wanted to sit down now and just sort of run through some of the things that I've been, with help from with other people, sort of nutted out as to what's actually happened out there. So I put a post out onto socials showing the dead fish and sort of asking, what do you think it is? I've had a heap of people come back, including some guys that said that actually noticed fish floating in other areas of the lake around that sort of same period of time, which did help to sort of eliminate the possibility of some sort of chemical runoff killing the fish in that particular arm. So that sort of put that one to rest. It's actually one of the first things that people sort of jump to in a lot of situations, go, oh, farmers have bloody dropped some chemicals or something that they're using on paddocks. And I mean, I guess it's a reasonably feasible explanation in some scenarios, but given that the event, what's happened, has actually happened way up the other end of the lake as well, kind of puts that one to rest. So we've worked out, and there are some assumptions being made here, but what I'm thinking is that these are nesting males. So these are male Murray cod that are on guarding nests of eggs. They're the ones that do the guarding of a nest of eggs, and they're very vigilant when it comes to guarding those eggs. They're very protective. They spend 24 hours a day fanning those eggs, keeping silt off them, keeping little fish out of them, crustaceans and things like that, basically keeping their eggs safe, because that's their job, and their instinct is to put everything into saving those, couple of 100,000 Murray cod eggs, which is going to be the next generation coming through. So they will do that almost to the point they will put their own lives at risk before they will actually lose or abandon a nest of eggs. And there has been a case of this happening up in Burrinjuck years ago, where a similar thing happened, and they worked out that's what had happened up there as well. So a couple of things have gone into it. So we've got a nest. We've got Murray cod that are nesting, that are very determined to stay on their nest. We've got a dropping lake. We've got a very, very unstable weather pattern through spring, where we've had some really warm weather followed by some very, very severe cold fronts with cold rain and things like that. And that all combined with the stresses of spawning activity and the lack of feeding that they do during that time has basically culminated in a very bad situation for these fish, and that's why I've had this big fish kill. So one of the big things that we've been able to work out, and I will explain a little bit about how we sort of work that out. And when I say we, I had a pretty in-depth conversation, and also recently I recorded a podcast for the Social Fishing Podcast. We sort of dug into the different possibilities, the different theories, and we got in contact with some, fisheries managers, guys from DPI, and guys with more experience in it than what we've got, and we were able to work out and eliminate some of these different scenarios. I've done a heap of research myself over the last couple of days, and I'll tell you what, this whole what do they call it? Limnology, I think the name. I don't even know how to say the bloody word. Or a limnologist who is someone who studies the water, your different densities and different situations with your water. They study the epilimniums and the thermoclines and the hyperlimniums and water density and all that sort of stuff. So it is way above my pay grade, way above my my level of expertise, but I just wanted to sit down and give you layman's terms as to what I've sort of worked out. So those nesting fish up there have been hit pretty hard. So the big thing that we've worked out is the whole rollover situation. So the rollover is basically when the surface layer of the water rolls over with the layer down below. So I've got a graphic here which I'll show. So you can see here we've got this epilimnion up the top here. That's the bit that we're usually worried about. It's usually where your yellows and your cod are hanging out up in this level. It is generally warmer through the spring, summer months. It is highly oxygenated because it's been oxygenated by wind and things like that. Then you've got the thermocline, which I'm sure anyone with a decent sounder would know what a thermocline is and what it looks like. It's basically that furry line that you see through sometimes the middle of your sounder. It could be in 5 metres, it could be in 10 metres, could be 12, 14 metres. And then you've got the hyperlimnion, that is the bottom layer. So the bottom layer is cooler. It has less DA level, so less dissolved oxygen down there. And what happens with a rollover is, and if it's caused by, there's a couple of different causes, and sometimes the two, if they work together, it intensifies the whole situation. And I think that's probably the scenario that we've got up there. So basically what happens is you get a cool change. So you get 30 odd degrees. This section up here is nice and warm. It starts to stratify. You get this thermocline layer, and you've got this deoxygenated, not deoxygenated, but this level down here, which is basically not ideal for the fish. It doesn't have the same level of oxygen. This layer cools, so you get 30 odd degrees, and then we get a cold snap. It gets to near 0 overnight, you get an inch of rain, get a heap of wind, this layer starts to cool, and what happens is it actually sinks down and pushes this layer back up again. So you get this rollover situation. Now what happens there is all of a sudden you've got a nesting fish, a nesting Murray cod. So the reason that no other fish were dead up there, the yellows, the redfin, the female cod, so those real big metre 10, metre 20, metre 30, remembering that we didn't find a fish up there that was much over a metre, the reason that they don't die or get affected so much is they swim away. They don't have a reason to stay in what is now less oxygenated water, which is where they're holding in. So this layer drops, this layer rises to the surface, and you end up with a rollover. Eventually it all mixes. But in the meantime, you've got these fish that are nesting, so they've got a reason to stay there. They're nesting in water, and all of a sudden the oxygen level drops. So the oxygen level drops. They're like, no, I don't care. I'm still staying. I want to save this nest. Next thing you know, they don't even realise it's happening that quickly, and you've got the water that's dropping as well. It's had a very, very sharp start to irrigation up there. The water level drops. You've got less oxygenated water they're holding in, and the next thing you know, within an hour, they're buggered. They basically roll before they even realise what's happening to them because they're that determined to stay on the nest. So in a nutshell, that is pretty much what's happened up there. So I actually seen a section of water up there which appeared to be flowing upstream. There is a little bit of inflow coming down there at the moment. There is absolutely no reason. There was no wind on the day to sort of have that sort of momentum of the wind pushing it up. What I worked out is that basically that is that bottom layer of water rolling up and pushing back on top. So what's happened is we've had a rollover event further down the lake. The surface water has sunk down. The hyperlineum water has risen up to the top. And what I actually seen with the water flowing past those trees is that surface water, which is now surface water, that hyperlineum that used to be down below, it's swapped, so they've swapped over and it's filling back up. And that hyperlineum water, the less oxygenated, colder water, has flooded up and over and back up that river arm. And that's why I seen the water looking like, and it was very noticeable coming past these trees. And I didn't, at the time, I thought, geez, that's a bit weird. But it wasn't until I dug into all this stuff that I realised that that's what I was actually seeing. I was actually seeing that that hypo water, which could be from another event that's happening, you know, at that time. We've had another massive cold snap since. That's what's happening again. It's basically backfilling back up the river arm, basically exchanging or displacing the epilimnian water. So it's a pretty catastrophic event, but it's more than one event, more than one thing happening at a time. So not only do you get the possibility or the situation where you've got rollover from cooling surface water exchanging or displacing that lower water, but you can also get a situation where you have a rollover which is caused by a drawdown, so caused by basically when they're releasing water from the lake. That can also cause a situation where, I'm going to cut this nice and short because, as I've mentioned before, I'm definitely no scientist, and this is well beyond my expertise by a bloody country mile. It's really just to try and help sort of explain things. But what happens is when the hypolimnium water, so the lower water, gets drawn away and reduced, and this can happen in just a section like it has at Burrinjuck, or in a couple of different sections, because that hypolimnium water gets drawn out from the bottom of the river arms or the bottom of the lake. It's reduced. What that allows is the epilimnium water to basically have more strength. The epilimnium water erodes itself from the bottom, because that big anchor, that big mass of the hypolimnium water is no longer as big, so it doesn't have that big sort of higher density water down low. It starts to sort of erode. Eventually it erodes itself to the point where it allows that hypolimnium water to roll up and over the top. Like I said, that is a very, very rough explanation, but basically it's another reason why the water would roll over. Okay, so you've got the cool change coming on the back of hot water, of hot weather, with the wind and the rain and all the rest of it, causing that surface layer to cool and become denser. Plus you've got the draw of the water, drawing that hypolimnium or the big anchor down below, which helps to keep that water stratified, keep it in layers. That's being drawn away, and all of a sudden you've got this catastrophic situation where you end up with this very intense rollover of the water, and you've got fish that are nesting in what is now water that's got less dissolved oxygen in it. Plus you get the sulfides that are released when you get this rollover as well, which is dragged up from that bottom layer, and you've got a really catastrophic situation for these nesting fish that don't want to leave. And like I said, before they know it, they're done for. And they die. So absolutely gutted to see them out there doing that. The other thing that I did notice out there was we actually come across a section of water which had a really funny brown, greeny sort of tinge to it. It was, I don't know, it was a funny looking colour, and I just assumed, as I always have, and I'm sure that these rollover things are happening more often than what we actually have noticed until now, which is why it sucked me right into sort of investigating this, because this is actually going to feed into fish behaviour. So when we're out there fishing, it's actually going to help us to try and understand when things get really tough. So what I found is a section of this green, brown, murky looking water. It didn't look like it had a heap of clay particles in it, but it was dirty. And what that is that hypolimnium water and all that, you know, stuff being dredged up off the bottom of the lake, flipped over and brought to the surface, and it discolours it as well. So, you know, I've read up on papers and stuff like that where they've actually studied this type of thing, and that is one of the things that is a bit of a key giveaway as to, you know, when that's actually happened. Plus, we also, as we were travelling up that river arm, we watched the water temp on the Sounder go up, then it drops, and then it came back up again. So that's that section of cooler water which had flipped. Okay, so we actually seen it all happening, and like I said, I actually didn't put the pieces of the puzzle together at the time, and I tell you what, there's a lot of bloody pieces. But once I got back home and started sort of researching and talking to people and all that sort of thing, that's when I sort of started to go, okay, this makes sense. You know, I started to try and shoot that to pieces and come up with things like parasites. Parasites was one that came up, which is a big issue for hatcheries. So in the hatcheries, they actually have to treat their hatchery ponds for a parasite during spring because they breed up in the springtime and that can actually kill the fish. And I think that's maybe what old mate, the farmer up there, was sort of talking about. Rather than being a bacteria, it might have been a parasite that DPI had mentioned to him years ago that was the cause. From what I can work out, I don't believe that parasite would be able to breed in such intensity to be able to affect fish there, and also in quite a broad area, wide section, because there was fish that was found up towards Scrubby Flats, up in the Murrumbidgee Arm and also up a bit further. So, you know, there's a massive volume of water there. So I don't think that the whole parasite thing sort of comes into it. So tricky situation. And I think I did mention that I thought, you know, maybe humans had something to do with it. I guess, you know, if the drawdown of the lake, if the releases of irrigation water in the lake has exaggerated the rollover situation with the cold changes, I guess you could say, yes, we are the cause of it. But at the end of the day, Lake Burrinjuck is a water irrigation dam. It was built for the sole purpose of irrigating downstream. So basically the idea is fills up in wintertime, through spring and summer, they let the water down for irrigation. Fishing is just an added bonus. Fishing and water sports and all that sort of stuff it's all an added bonus that was sort of created on top of the main purpose of that lake, which is irrigation. So if irrigation is the cause of it, well, you know what, it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about that because irrigation is very, very important to agriculture in the Murray-Darling Basin, and I would not want to see that stop, that's for sure. So yes, we might have had something to do with it, but hey, we actually can't help it. So and don't panic. It will bounce back. I don't know what percentage of those nesting fish we actually seen dead, whether that makes up 5% or 10% or 50% or what it is, I don't actually know. But you know, obviously you've got stocking levels which will keep the stocks up. There probably won't be any natural recruitment this season. There is actually close to 50-50 natural recruitment versus stock fish in Burrinjuck, because it does have those nice big long arms for the fish to be able to get up into and successfully spawn. But, you know, as catastrophic as it looked, that footage and how bad I felt at the time, and I really did get almost sick to the stomach, to be honest, when I seen all those fish laid up there. It's not the end of the world. So that is that. If you do have any questions or any input into that, be sure to drop them in the comments. I'll be glad to hear them. And as mentioned, I hope multiple times by now, I am far from being an expert or a scientist. This is just the stuff that I've been able to work out from my research over the last few days. So I think it's important to talk about and to share it, and to, I guess, disperse some of those myths out there and some of the doom boosting about how it could have been you know, a more sinister effect, a more sinister reason that's affected these fish. So one last thing before I do go, I just wanted to mention that the fishing up the Juck this spring has been like really, really poor. Really hot and cold. I shouldn't say really poor, because if you got there at the right time, it's been good, but generally speaking, it's been pretty tough overall. It's been really sporadic where, you know, and I'll write my social fishing report and, you know, talk to a few people and go and fish the lake once or twice a month and try and get a bead on what's going on up there. And what I've found is it's been really sporadic. So it'll be really good potentially on days it shouldn't be. So when it's cloudy and overcast and all that sort of stuff, it's been okay. And then you go up there like I did with Dad, and it's a beautiful, sunny, warm Sunday. It was the second warm sunny day. It's 30 odd degrees. It's almost glassed out, and they were that sulky up there. It wasn't funny. We ended up with 2 fish in the afternoon. and I spoke to others that had been fishing it as well and found it exactly the same. Really, really tough going, and that is because there is more going on with this water stratification and rollover thing than what I have ever given credit for, or even took the time to look into or to even notice. So from my research into this pretty devastating fish kill, I've actually sort of delved into a little bit as to worked out the reason why the place hasn't been fishing all that well when it otherwise should have, because we've had a couple of really good springs up there and this one has been pretty tough. That's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Thank you for your patience when you're trying to watch me, listen to me try and get out these big scientific words. Like I said, I'm far from being an expert or a scientist or any of those sort of things. I'm basically just trying to dumb it down for myself to help me understand, and I hope I've helped you understand as well.